Hello, and welcome to the Viva Connections SharePoint Framework bi-weekly sync. It is June 30th, 2022, the end of June already, halfway through the year. I'm your host on this call, Patrick Rodgers, and we got a great agenda for you as always. Latest updates on the SharePoint Framework, patterns and practices updates across the program, new community samples, our together mode picture time, and then of course 3 great demos from Arun, Luis, and Marcin, accordion tabs with rich text, user profile awards using MS Graph, and adaptive card extensions strategy pattern. Very excited to see all 3 of those, but let's get through our announcements to get to the demos. Often we get folks asking for opportunities to participate in PnP or this call. The best way, in my opinion, to participate is to join us and give a demo. You can request a demo spot by using the link down there in the bottom right corner, aka.ms/m365pnp/request/demo, and love to have your demo on this call. So I know you're doing great work for your companies and your customers. I'd love to have you come on the call and share that with us. I always learn something neat from all the demos. As well, you can contribute on GitHub, reporting issues, submitting pull requests, or helping others with their issues and questions is always a great way to get involved. If you have an answer that somebody else might be asking about, jump on in there and let them know. Always appreciate folks jumping in. And finally, you can always provide feedback on the calls, on our documentation. Where else can we help? And positive feedback is, of course, okay too. If we're doing something you really like, let us know. We could try and do a little bit more of it. Now, perhaps you can't join every call, and that's, of course, very likely because we have so many calls. You could always catch up later on YouTube. We've got our developer videos, which are focused on developer tasks like learning how to do auth, starting with ACEs, getting started with the Microsoft Graph. As well, we've got community videos, which are going to be the recordings of all of these calls and other community events. We've got great open source organizations on GitHub, PnP, Office Dev, Microsoft Graph, and SharePoint, all of which are open and welcome to you joining in and participating. And we've got tons of great sample galleries across everything M365. The easiest thing is to use that top link, ak.ms/m365/samples, which will take you to the new unified samples gallery, a great way to find samples across many repositories at once. So fantastic search features there. Wonderful to see that capability. Encourage you to check that out. And finally, that's a lot of links and a lot of stuff to remember, but you can always just go to aka.ms/m365/community, and that'll get you links to everything about the PnP program, everything about the samples and videos, links to all these community calls so you can join and have the invites, and then as well catch up on any recordings for specific episodes you may have missed, or just want to refresh yourself on something that might have happened. You want to rewatch that great demo. Speaking of community calls, tons of great community calls across all kinds of topics. The Microsoft 365 platform call is a weekly call hosted by Microsoft. Want to remind folks, this call is on summer break through into August. I think we'll start again in September with that, and look forward to getting that series back going. That's been fantastic this last all part of the year that wasn't summer. But we're going to take a short break on that call as lots of folks are out. It's tough to get that scheduled up. But of course, we got calls on adaptive cards, identity platform, Office Admins, Power Platform, and then the 2 bi-weekly calls down there at the bottom. You're in the bottom one there, the SPFx call. And you can always get the recurrent invites, ak.ms/m365/calls for all of these calls. And now I'll hand it over to David for some info on sharing is caring.
Excellent. Thank you, Patrick. Well, friends, if you would like to get involved as well in all these ways of the community, you are welcome to do so. And in fact, we want to help you do that. Sharing is Caring is a program that is here to provide you hands-on guidance. That means that in live interactive sessions, we're going to work together on maybe doing your first pull request. Perhaps you want to learn how to use the samples, or you want to learn how to write for the web, one of our newest sessions. These are all free. They are safe space, meaning they're not recorded, and you are welcome to join to work along with members of the team, MVPs, members of Microsoft, and the whole community. We have some July dates already set up for Power Platform Sample Contributor and Writing for the Web with Emily Mancini and Hugo Bernier. And of course, Hugo Bernier is the newest Community Program Manager for Power Pages, so we've got a Sharing is Caring coming soon for that. Don't hesitate to sign up. They are absolutely open for your registration and all free. Now, once you've done that and you've contributed and you've registered and you've gotten involved with the community, we want to recognize you for all the amazing work that you're doing. So the recognition program is here to provide formal, accredited, and official recognition for the work you're doing with Credly badges. Yes, the same Credly that handles the certification badges for Microsoft. They'll sit right alongside one another. You can share them on LinkedIn, put them on Twitter, put them on your blog, put them on your website, put them on the fridge, share them with everybody. It's going to be a fantastic way to be recognized for the work that you're doing. Today is the 30th, last day of the month, as Patrick had mentioned. So we're going to be running all those reports and be on the lookout for those badges coming to your inbox soon. We do need you to opt in, though, only once, aka.ms/M365PnP-recognition. We hope to see your registration soon. Thanks, everybody. Patrick, back to you.
Awesome. Thanks for that update, David. And now we'll go over to Vesa for SharePoint framework updates.
Quick updates in here. So 1.15 was released, I think, 2 weeks ago. So that it has been now GA'd, and it should be the version what you're using for development. We haven't actually run into any specific, let's say, massive issues with it. We might actually release 1.15.1 though, because there are certain small nuances which are kind of causing a little bit of friction, but it's completely safe to use 1.15 for now for creating all of the solution. It does support Node 16 as an example for the extensibility side. If you go to the following slide, we can see the nice growth pattern on the SPFx solutions worldwide. So this is monthly active users within for the custom components which are being used worldwide in Microsoft 365, and it is just amazing to see the growth year after year, month after month. And we can now predict that the next month will go a bit down, but then autumn will go up. Now, 1.15, as mentioned, was released in 2 weeks ago, roughly, with all of the latest capabilities, updates on certain things. We're looking into then introducing 1.16 as a first preview in late July, early August, and then that's going to plan to go GA within September. So we're trying to get to this quarterly release cycle, and then ETA for 1.17 is in December, January. It might be that it actually goes to January because the December is quite a slow month, depending on the holidays and all of that. But we'll see how it goes. A lot of input and a lot of new features coming up for Microsoft Viva, Microsoft Teams, and SharePoint. But that's a quick update from my side. Let's get back to you, Patrick.
Thanks for that, Vesa. Very excited to see all this great SPFX stuff coming down the pipe. And now we'll go over to Julie for PnPjs updates.
Yes, we will. So version 3.5 is scheduled to be released July 8th. We've got a lot of great new updates for this release too. As always, general documentation updates. We try to do a little bit every time we do a release. We do have a SPFx 1.15 fix. The typings were changed for web part context, and so that causes a typing issue when you're trying to use PnPjs version 3 in an SPFx 1.15 solution. There is an easy workaround, but we're going to fix that, so you'll see that in the 3.5 release. We're going to be adding lists, columns, and content types to Graph. So big update there to Graph. We're going to have a beta 2 release of the cancelable fetch calls. Patrick's been working super hard on that and some really awesome work. So we're excited to release a beta 2 of that, and we'll have more information on that coming soon. And then, again, another big thing, complete support for all the tenant admin APIs with a new package called SPAdmin. That's going to have minimal documentation, though, because there's just so many properties and so many things involved in it that we're adding the documentation to IntelliSense. So you'll be able to see the documentation, but we're not going to actually document every property and every method. So it'll be much more limited. Obviously, if, as a community, if you feel like something should be documented, we'd love to see a PR to update those docs. And again, don't forget the nightly builds. Any PR that gets merged, you can test it out by checking out the nightly builds that run and test that code out before we actually do an official release. And certainly if you see an issue, we'd love to hear about it before it gets officially released. And as always, follow us M365 PnPjs on Twitter. And that's all I have. Back to you, Patrick.
Awesome. Thanks, Julie. Yeah, we got a lot of good stuff coming with PnPjs. Excited to get the next release out. And with that, we'll move over to CLI for Microsoft 365 with Gary.
Hi everyone, so it's Gary from the CLI team. So this update is basically our end of the month where we release our next minor version. So we've just released v5.4 of CLI for Microsoft 365. So in this release, we've got plenty of new commands and enhancements that go across Azure Active Directory, SharePoint Online, and Planner, plus general improvements and just general bug fixes. Most notably, we've added support for upgrading your SPFx projects to the latest version. So we now support 1.15.0. And I'm going to just provide some links in the chat so that you can access all the key resources surrounding this release. So I'd highly recommend checking out the release announcement. We're going to further detail of what is included in this release, along with examples of how to use the new features. And also the release notes as well for looking through some of the minor performance updates that we've included. So with that, if you want to use this latest version, you can go direct to npm, or alternatively, you can use our Docker image to run CLI in a container. If you want to keep up with what the latest is on the CLI, then definitely recommend following our Twitter account, so that's at CLI Microsoft 365. And finally, if you've got any feedback, positive, negative, any ideas for new features that you'd like to see, then please check us out at the GitHub repo, raise an issue, start a discussion. We'd absolutely love to hear from you. And that's it. That's all for now.
Awesome. Thanks, Gary. Great updates around the CLI there. Now we got updates on the reusable components. React Controls 3.8.1 is out. So these are the controls designed to be used in the body of your web parts or application customizers. That has a live persona not showing card on hover has been fixed. So excited to see that get out. And the property controls are at 3.7.0 with a couple of fixes or little updates there. And those, again, are the controls designed to be used in the edit pane of your SharePoint Framework web part. So definitely check out that project. Great way to jumpstart things and save a lot of time by using these reusable controls and get a great out-of-the-box looking experience for your solutions. So encourage you to check out those controls. Next up is Modern Search, ak.ms/PnP Search, or PnP-Search, excuse me. That'll get you all the latest information. Version 4.7.0 beta is out. That's the June 2022 release. So you can find all the details at the link there, but support for adaptive card rendering and then release notes as well. We'll list all the other fixes and new features. So I encourage you to check out everything about the Modern Search, a great way to build modern search portals using a set of flexible and configurable web parts. We've seen a couple of demos on some recent calls for these. I encourage you to check them out. Great resource to save your company and customers a lot of time there. Next up is SPFx Samples with Hugo.
Thank you, Patrick. So we have repositories with cool code samples for SPFx extensions and SPFx web parts. And these are the updates for the last 2 weeks. We have an update to the page navigator by JC, who's added the capability to find collapsible section headers and inserting them into the navigation. And the staff directory by Milan, who upgraded it to SPFx 1.14. It was a great update. We welcome contributions. The one thing I wanted to point out, there's been a lot of conversation, people asking, hey, can we just get the SPPKG, the package file, so we can just install these extensions or these samples directly in our tenant. Want to remind you that these samples are intended to be samples. They're intended to teach you, coding techniques and help you. And while some of the samples are absolutely, production quality, we are not trying to create SPPKG files for you to install. We want you to download the samples, to build them yourself, to play with them, to learn how they work, and then absolutely at your own choosing, you can deploy them into your environment. With that being said, again, thank you everyone for all your contributions, and I look forward to seeing what's next. And with that, let's pass it to my friend David to talk about ACEs.
Awesome. Thank you, Hugo. Not a whole lot on the ACEs front. Derek has been doing a fantastic job. Derek Kaspian is helping manage this repo. So we do love new samples. Don't hesitate to reach out. And I know Derek is also working on a sharing is caring session for ACEs adaptive card extensions as well. So we look forward to having that available. Again, you can always submit new samples, aka.ms/SPFX-ACEs. Patrick, back to you.
Awesome, David. Thanks for that. Great updates there around all the samples. Now we'll go to our optional picture time.
Here we go. So let's see if I can actually get this again shared properly. 1 second. And sharing my screen. First world problems with too many screens. Here we go. We do have 50 seats in a room. And yes, intentionally calling it a room. Me and David. Haha, David. Oh, there we go. So this virtual thing is weird. Let's make a few more seconds, 20 seconds. I can say SharePoint monkey there as well, right next to Derek. And Hugo in the second row, a lot of familiar faces. Still one more row, 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I'm not recording. Maybe I should actually do that. So let's do some hand waving. Thanks everybody for joining once again. Thank you for being part of the community, and awesome to see this many people attending even on a summertime on the Northern Hemisphere. So thank you. And let's keep on being part of the community. Thanks everybody. Back to you, Patrick.
Great, thanks for that, Vesa. I think next up, we're just going to go to Arun for his accordion tabs with rich text demo. Arun, if you want to take over the presentation.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So today we'll look at accordion tabs with rich text. A small introduction about me. I work as a Microsoft 365 SME across Power Platform and whole of Microsoft 365 and across SPFx and other areas. You can reach me at arun1682@hotmail.com. And on LinkedIn as well, and Twitter, Arun_Permal16. We'll just quickly look at the features. So this accordion and tabs provides you an ability to create accordions and tabs based on content. Of course, it has the ability to create these tabs and the content based on a rich text editor. This sample uses TinyMCE, which, as far as I understand, is one of the best. Of course, you could replace it with the editor that we get with PnP React Controls. It defaults to accordion in a mobile display. You can change that behavior as well if you need to, but accordion seems better display with a mobile. Uses two custom components, both accordion and tabs. Tabs can be changed to use pivot. That's again available as part of the React controls, and accordion also. It uses the site primary colors and themes. So let's quickly look at a demo. A demo of the Microsoft Viva related content, just to give you an inference of how things can be done. And one of the key things in this is the ability to change between a tab and an accordion, and also the ability to manage tabs. What we get in this particular thing is, again, it uses the property field control, but again, just provides you only the ability to add the title. And then the element, the tab that you add, like for example, if I add sample tab, it adds as an thing and provides you a blank text editor to update. Okay, and this is the TinyMCE. We'll look at the code. Let me quickly remove this. I will show you a couple of other functionalities that are there within this TinyMCE. Like for example, here, if I go to the view, there is a video that has been played, and that uses the video control within the TinyMCE. You just have to embed, and what I have additionally done is the controls that you can do. It's a pure HTML that has been put on the page. Okay. Default, when you add this web part, you will get a sample content with 3 tabs or accordions. Tab is what is defaulted to, and then you get sample content for tab 1, tab 2, and tab 3. Same with the content as well. So moving to the code, the key things here on the package, basically I'm using TinyMCE React, which is for the rich text editor. And this, after you add the reference or the npm package to your project, you need to still create a reference to it. Firstly, declare it as a module, referencing to that particular module within your node modules. And then also you need to have, you need to mention the path of your external reference to the JS file. This, even though you add it as a package to your SPFx project, you need to reference this. I have referenced this to a CDN. What we did actually with the customer was to have this package hosted within the CDN of the customer so that there is no reference to the CDN outside external. That's another thing which you could probably do. Okay, and then moving on to the code further. This is a web part class where we basically have the references to two different components. One is the accordion component and the other one is the tab component. We look at each one of them, but moving back to the web part, it's basically based on the option that is being chosen. It displays it displays based on the property type that is being chosen, whether it is an accordion or a tab. The element or the component is rendered accordingly in the DOM. Okay, and if it is a mobile, it basically renders the DOM. Renders the accordion by default. Okay, and the way it checks for the mobile is using the browser utilities, which is again browser utilities is mobile browser, and then we basically have this as part of the core library, and then that's basically how the mobile thing is checked. Okay, and for the tabs, basically just using the property pane and then just a property field collection data for the tabs, just the title that is being captured. Okay. Moving to the, for example, the accordion. Here, what happens is based on the display mode, if it is edit or display, if it is in the edit mode, then the specific accordion controls are put, and then within the body, the editor from the TinyMC is rendered. Actually, here I'm listing all the toolbar options, but you could limit to basically what you need as part of your specific requirements. Okay. And also the styles and other things. You can control all of this within your options that you get as part of your init method for the editor. How does this affect update back the object? That happens with this handle change handle editor change. This is a method which gets called on change event of the editor for each individual editor. Each individual editor has a unique ID that has been defined by the GUID that is being passed with the editor and then the index of the item that is there. Okay, and when it comes to this, basically we are pushing back the content to the properties and the tabs. Basically the object within the props that has been passed and for a specific ID. This ID we get back based on the name of that particular editor. Okay, target.id or ID of the editor. And then update based on that, update the tabs. And this is basically what we are eventually going to render in when it is not in the rather in the display mode. Okay, so here it basically is pushing things to a div, basically setting the dangerously set inner HTML. And even that particular div has an ID just as an identifier. There's an attempt to use use basically the area controls and others just to have the tabbing effect, but I think it's still a bit buggy. I'll probably try to see if I can have that fixed in a proper way. Okay, and coming back to the tab, it uses again the similar sort of an approach, but with the tab custom components that is there. And here you have the similar approach where you have, if it is checked, whether if it is an edit mode or a display mode, and accordingly displaying the editor and the similar sort of options that are there with other accordion. Okay, just on the utilities, basically with the utilities, you have the main accordion, which encompasses the other things like the accordion item, accordion body, and the title, and then the body. Similarly, for the tab, you have the tabs is the main component, and then you have the tab links and then the content for it. Okay, if you quickly see what we have as part of, for example, the accordion, right? So here, the display part has the accordion on the top, where you have basically for each of the tabs that are available or the accordions that are identified, there is an accordion item, and then you have the title and then the body. So that's more it. The key thing here, especially with a TinyMC, is to have the config file or a reference to your tinymc.js. Either you could load it directly or have it as an external reference. And this is the key thing for the TinyMC to work. Okay, mostly done. And back over to you, Patrick.
All right, fantastic stuff there. Arun, really excited to see that. Very cool demo with the accordion tabs. And now we're going to move over to Luis for User Profile Awards using MS Graph.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for the invite to present today. In this demo, I'm going to show you an SPFS web part that is listing the user profile awards using the beta Microsoft Graph profile endpoint. So before starting, just a super quick about me slide. My name is Luis Mañez. I work as a chief architect at Clear People, where we're building a digital workspace platform. I'm a Microsoft MVP in Office development, and you can find me in social networks at Luis Mañez, so feel free to ping me with any question or whatever you need. Okay, before starting with the web part, let me introduce you the beta profile endpoint in Graph API, because actually I was happily surprised with all the new information that we can now attach to the user profile in Graph. So here's the list. As you can see, you can have things like skills, projects, positions, languages, addresses, and awards, of course, and some even more. And if that sounds familiar to you, it's because you have a LinkedIn profile. And yeah, you can imagine that now you can have that information in your organization using Graph. Regarding the awards, you can do the usual CRUD operations. Everything is well documented in the beta endpoint. And if you want to do a list of awards, you have the endpoint behind beta me profile awards or beta/users/user ID profile awards. And if you do a get request, you're gonna get the different awards attached to the user profile. And obviously you need to grant the proper permissions, as you can see in the table. Also, if you want to create a new award, you can do a post request in the profile awards and send in the body with the different properties. So you have the display name, description, issue date, the authority that is issuing the award, thumbnail, external web URL, and even some other properties that you can see in the table, where I just mentioned them. Most important in my opinion. And also, again, to create a new award, you're going to need to grant permissions as well, as you can see in the table. Okay, so let's see the web part in action. Jumping into, as you can see here, I have my web part running locally. So I've created a new page and added my awards web part. So you can see here the list of the different awards I've already configured using Graph. And for each award, we have the title, description, the badge, the authority, the date, and also if you click in view details, it opens the external URL with more information about the award. And as I said, well, in the next version, I plan to have editing functionality, so every user can add their own awards and manage their awards. But in the meantime, you need to call the Graph API. So I have Postman request here to add an award. So if we do a post request to the profile awards, with this information, description, display name, date, authority, thumbnail, and web. If the token is not expired, this is the request. Yeah, the award has been created with the information. Now you have an ID in case you want to select this specific award or delete it, and so on. And now if we go back to the page and we refresh, we are getting the information of the new award. Okay, so that's pretty much everything about the web part in action. So let me back to the slides. And yeah, let's take a look to the more relevant parts in the source code. So first, what I'm doing is just modeling the award with the different properties, ID, name, description, thumbnail, and so on. Then I have created an award service class. And this class is responsible to query graph and bringing back all the awards of the user. In this case, I'm using the me endpoint, so I'm getting my awards. I'm configuring the endpoint and the graph client factory as a property, and in the constructor, I'm using dependency injection and the service scope to get the graph client factory that is actually already registered by the SPFx framework. So I'm doing the service scope consume with the service key of the graph factory and getting that graph client factory. And then in the get my awards method, I'm just using the factory to create the graph client and then calling the awards endpoint graph to get the awards sorting by issue date. That class is being registered in the, let's say, the dependency injection container in the service scope. And then in the web part itself, in the onInit method, what I'm doing is creating a new service scope. And when the service scope is done, I'm retrieving the award service object that was already registered in the previous step. And then that award service object is being passed as a property in the My Awards React component. The My Awards React component in the component mode is just using the award service to get my awards, and when it's done, is updating the state of the component with a list of the awards. And then in the render method, as you can imagine, I'm just rendering a list of award components. And finally, the award component is just rendering all the different award properties with the proper styling. So that's pretty much everything about the source code. And as usual, it's already available in the PnP web part repository. So feel free to download and testing and let me know how it goes. And yeah, I think that's everything. Thank you very much for having me in the call, and back to you, Patrick.
Awesome stuff. Thank you for that great demo there. Love to see that stuff with the use of the graph there. Really interesting. Hope folks check that out. And finally, we'll close out with Marcin doing adaptive cart extension strategy pattern. So excited to learn about this. Marcin, do you want to take over the presentation?
With pleasure. Hello, today I would like to talk a little bit about strategy pattern and why it can be quite useful in context of adaptive cart extensions. Before we move forward, 2 words about myself. So here we go. Marcin, myself, I'm SharePoint developer. I've been told I can go too much into the details. So, or if you would need any assistance, help, guidance, explanations on what will happen today or previously, don't hesitate to contact me at any of my lovely socials. Now let's discuss what can be the problem. Especially with complex adaptive cart extensions where you have multiple actions you want to execute in the QuickView, the onAction method can grow and grow and grow to absolutely unmanageable state. The more ifs or switch statements you have, it gets more and more difficult to actually follow the code, to debug, and to extend it a little bit later, should you need to extend your adaptive cart even further. And finally, logic that residues in SharePoint framework entry point classes is difficult to isolate and test. What I mean by that, if you want to unit test something that is happening either in QuickView, in the actual web part, in extension entry point, you will have quite a hard time. It will be quite difficult to properly mock the whole life cycle, deal with that. So the best thing you can do is you can forget about testing the entry points, just test everything else. And with this, you will be able to test how your code integrates or interacts with user without actually needing anything to know about the QuickView. How to do it? As I mentioned, strategy pattern. Strategy pattern is something very, very beautiful. It is one of the cornerstones, I believe, of design patterns in general, originally described by Gang of Four. What it is, strategy pattern effectively tells us we will perform some action. And this is exactly what we can use both in adaptive cut extensions, but also in list view extensions and in application extensions when we want to handle specific actions from one entry point. And usually we tend to do that using if action ID equals something. You don't have to do it like this. And finally, you can compose different action executors under one action executor, and in that action executor decide what will happen. I know it's quite difficult to follow now, but this is why we are about to hit demo time. In demo time, I will first of all show you my beautiful adaptive card. This adaptive card, as you can see, on the first glance does nothing, but when you click QuickView, you can see it loads news, or the recent news. I believe there are 6 or something like that. Loads some news. Now we can interact with that adaptive card. We can like post, we can add comment, boom, comment added. We can share it in Teams, and we can, of course, navigate between the different news. If you want to share in Teams, it's not a simple action, because firstly, we need to load available teams. We have to select the team. Let's say we'll post that news in IT. Then we have to select in what the channel in general, and finally share it. I hope that will work. IT, general. Here we go. We share the news. But as you may imagine, the code behind the whole if statements can get quite difficult to follow. Actually, to give you some context how it originally looked like, that's it. We have on action, and you can see action ID, if action ID, quite a lot of different action IDs. So the goal is to minimize this as much as possible. First, or before we go further, let's take a look at the actual adaptive card templates, or the QuickView template, when you can see that, yes, we have quite a lot of actions there. So how to handle it? This I like. This looks like something I can manage. What is happening here? We have our view manager, and in our view manager, we handle action. We handle action by our action executor. What is our action executor? F12 again. So our action executor actually combines few other actions we want to handle. Then in for each checks if specific action should be handled, and if so, handles it. Let's go a little bit deeper and consider navigation action. So this is what will happen when we click previous or next. And action, exactly. As you can see, the should handle action will return true only if the action ID is next or previous. This is exactly what we have in our template under previous and next. One more time. And how will we communicate with actual adaptive card to say that, okay, we want to change state? As you can see here, in handle action, we also provide the QuickView reference. Thanks to that, we can actually check what is the current state, so we can decide what will be the next index of news to display, and we can set the state. With that, we are good to go. Here you can also see that we are loading comments, because if there is some comment on the news, we also want to display. And then again, we update the state. And this is exactly what is happening for every other action I had there. The post in Teams action is a little bit different because, as I mentioned before, post in Teams actually requires you to perform few changes in the adaptive card state. First one is to be able to select the team, then based on selected team, select channel, based on selected channel, then you can post the news. And this is exactly what is happening here. You have a nice isolation of what we want to do, how we want to do it, and at least I believe it looks a little bit cleaner. And now for the final step, as I mentioned, if you don't know me yet from this site, I'm a sucker for unit testing. And with that, we can actually unit test all of our actions without ever interacting with QuickView itself. So that's it. I believe we went through that relatively quickly. I believe there is one last slide after demo time, which is, why do I like it? As I mentioned, easy way to add new actions with zero impact on QuickView code. Why I consider it important? The bigger adaptive card is, the bigger the template is, and the more difficult it will become to actually change something in QuickView itself. With that approach, if you have new action, you just add a new action to the template, and you actually, maybe I will show that, and you register or implement new action like this. Yes, we will have send news in email action handler. We added just here with absolutely zero impact on our QuickView itself, which I believe is a little bit safer. Next, easily isolated and testable without any need of mocking SharePoint dependency. I believe we covered that. And handlers related to specific business actions, so domain action, like again, pagination and sharing can be logically grouped together under one action handler. And I believe that's it. Unless there are any more questions, I would like to thank you very much for the opportunity to be the last speaker before the break. It was lovely. And thank you very much.
Awesome stuff. Thank you, Marcin, for that. I'm going to get the slides back up. And for the first time, and as long as I can recall, we have finished up a little bit early, which I know is terrifying to some.
Sorry, Patrick, I'll jump on the, Marcin said that he's the last presenter before the break. We need to remember, we're not breaking the Thursday call. Only Tuesday call is on a summer break. Thursday calls at 7 a.m. Pacific time will keep on going through the summer. So sorry, just to clarify there. Patrick, back to you.
Yep. So I was going to say, so we could go to some open questions in the chat for a bit. Folks can drop off a little early. Want to thank our presenters, Arun, Luis, and Marcin, for joining us today. 3 great demos. Really impressed, and great work from the 3 of y'all. And so with that, I think we'll go ahead and close out the call a little bit early on this Thursday with our thanks for joining us here on the community call this week. Recording will be available in about 24 hours on the M365 YouTube channel. That's ak.ms/M365/videos. And follow us on Twitter at @Microsoft365Dev or @M365PnP. We will have a call next Thursday. That's the general dev call on July 7th. And then we will have another one of these calls, the SPFX calls, in 2 weeks on July 14th at the same time. So these calls will continue through the summer. The Thursday calls, it is, as Vaesa mentioned, the Tuesday call that is going on hiatus. You can get links to all of our available community calls at ak.ms/M365/calls. And with that, I'll thank all of you for joining us today. Look forward to talking to all of you again soon, and have a great summer if you are headed out somewhere. So get some time off, get some rest, enjoy yourselves. You deserve it, and we will talk soon. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Bye-bye.